Okay, so in the last video, we got all of this information. Now we're ready to graph it. So I'm going to go down and hopefully have some more room. Let's see. I may need to go down here a little bit and pull everything down a bit. All right, so let me go back to the draw feature and draw a graph. And again, I don't know why it's such fat lines. Okay, so we've got zeros at 2, -3, and 9. So I'm going to go to 2 first. There's my first one. -3. There's my second one, and I probably need to extend my axis again for 9, so just pull it out a bit. So let's see, that's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. All right, so I've got my 3 points on there. Now let's go back to our end behavior. Our end behavior says down on the left, down on the right. So if I go to the extreme left, I want it to go down. And the extreme right, I want it to go down. All right, got that part. All right, now let's go ahead and put our y-intercept on the graph, which is at 432. Again, it doesn't really matter. We can just say that right up here is 432. And put our point there. Okay, now we pay attention to crossing and touching. Let's look at -3 first. -3, the graph crosses at -3. So we want to go across the axis. We're already on the bottom, so we want it to go up to the top. And we can see it's got to go up to the top, grab this y-intercept, come back down. All right, so let's see what happens at 2. Does it cross or does it just touch or bounce? Okay, so it bounces at 2. Okay, so we want it to go back up. So we want it to go back up. And it's got to come over to this x-axis, or this x-intercept right here. And then notice that we have it crossing there. So let's hope that at 9 it says that it's crossing. And it does, so that's excellent. And we can have a maximum of 5 turning points. We don't have that many. We want to make sure that we have no more than 5, though. So we have 1, 2, and 3, which is perfectly okay. We don't have to have 5. We just can have a maximum of 5. And there's our graph. Okay, so let's notice number 6 says to repeat the steps that we just did. But now we're going to make up a polynomial with degree 5 and a positive leading term. So I'm going to make one up. You must make up one that's different than the one that I made up. All right, but let me exit out of the draw. There we go. And let's make up a polynomial of degree 5. Now that means that all of our exponents are going to add up to 5. All right, so I'll just make one up. Let's say x minus 5, and I'll square it. And the next one, let's just make it x plus 1 and square it. Okay. Now so far I've got x to the 4th because my exponents add up to 4. So I need one more exponent, or one more first power. So let's say x minus 3 to the first power, so I won't write a power. So that's x to the 5th when we multiply our exponents out. All right, so this is a 5th degree polynomial with a positive leading term. And our leading term, if we were to write it, would be x to the 5th. Okay. All right, now let's go to making our chart of zeros, their multiplicities, and cross or touch. Okay, so first 0 from what I've made up is a positive 5. Its multiplicity is a 2. And if the multiplicity is even, it touches. Next 0 is opposite of the 1, so -1. Its multiplicity is 2 again, and that means it touches. And then the last 0, opposite of negative 3, is positive 3. Its multiplicity is the unwritten exponent 1. And if our multiplicity is odd, that means it crosses. Okay, now let's get the end behavior. Positive in front, odd exponent, means that our end behavior looks like the x cubed graph. So our end behavior is up on the right, down on the left. Looks like the x cubed graph. All right, so we got our end behavior. Let's get our y-intercept by plugging 0 into the x. 0 minus 5 squared. There we go. And then 0 plus 1 squared. And then 0 minus 3. 0 minus 3. Okay, so negative 5 squared is what we're going to have in the first parenthesis. That's 25. 1 squared is going to be 1. And then in the third parenthesis, we're going to have negative 3. So this is going to give us negative 75. All right, now maximum number of turning points is going to be 1 less than our exponent. So max turning points is 4 here. Okay, now let's draw it. Let me put some more space in here. We'll draw this thing. And I am not going to use that wide one. And I'll change the color from my actual graph. Okay, so let's go back up here and let's notice our zeros that I came up with are 5, negative 1, and 3. So 5, here it is, negative 1, here it is, and 3, right there. All right, now let's put our end behavior on here. Let's notice our end behavior is up on the right, down on the left. So if I go to the far right, it needs to be going up. If I go to the leftmost intercept, I need to go down from there. So it needs to go down. Actually, needs to go down. All right, now let's go ahead and put our y-intercept on here. Our y-intercept is negative 75. So I'll just say this is negative 75 down here. And there's my point. All right, so now let's look at touching and crossing. So at negative 1 on the far left, it touches. So it is going to bounce from this, and we can see it's got to come down here. Grab the 75, and then it's got to go back up to this next x-intercept. All right, so let's see what's happening at 3. At 3, it crosses. Okay, so let's go across the x-axis. Again, though, it's got to come back to its next x-intercept. And we've got it touching here, or bouncing, so let's make sure that's what's happening in our chart. And in fact, at 5, it does show it touching. So everything's okay. Let's count our turning points. We should have at most 4. Here's 1. Here's 1, that's 2. Here's 1, that's 3. And here's 1, that's 4. Okay, now let's look at the last one. We have to repeat the steps again, but with degree, that should not say degree, 5, and a negative leading term. So to get a negative in front, we're going to put a negative in front of the whole polynomial like we did up here. All right, so we need degree 5 and a negative out front. So let's make up a polynomial. Again, when you make up your own, you've got to have one different than the one that I've used here, and also different than what you use in your prior step. So let's just make one up here. I'll just put a negative out front, and let's say x minus 8. And I'm going to use the third power. All right. And then x plus, I don't know, let's say 7. And then I'll make my last one. Now let's notice so far I have third power. This is the first power, so I need one more to make it 5. So let's see, I'll call this one x minus 1. All right, so now it is the leading term is negative, since we've got that negative out front, and I have x to the third. This one makes it x to the fourth, and this makes it x to the fifth. So it's a leading term of negative x to the fifth, and of course we do have degree 5. All right, now let's make our chart of zeros, multiplicities, and touches and crosses. All right, so first 0 from what I've made up is a positive 8. Its multiplicity is 3. That is odd, so odd always crosses. All right, second 0 is a negative 7. Multiplicity is the unwritten 1. And again, that's odd, so it crosses. And then I made a 1, so multiplicity is 1. And again, that's odd, so it crosses. So this one crosses everywhere. All right, now let's get in behavior. A negative in front and an odd power looks like x cubed flipped over. So in behavior, it's going to look like this. Down on the right, up on the left. All right, so let's get our y-intercept. Putting a 0 in, I'll get negative 0 minus 8 to the third, which is going to give me a huge answer, but that's okay. And then 0 plus 7, and then 0 minus 1. All right, so negative in front. Let's not forget that negative that's in front. If I multiply negative 8 to the third, I get negative 512. And then I have 7 in the second set of parentheses and negative 1 in the last set. And I'll put that into my calculator. That's negative 3584. Huge negative. All right. And now the maximum number of turning points is 1 less than our degree, so it's 4. All right, so let's draw this thing. All right, so again, I'll use my draw feature. I'm gonna keep it that color, so. All right, and I'll change it in order to put my intercepts. Okay, first intercept is at 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Right there. Next one is at negative 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then the last one is at 1. It should be right here. All right, let's put our in behavior. On the far left, it's going up. On the far right, it's going down. All right, now let's put the y-intercept on there. It's at negative 3,584. We don't care how far down we go, so we're just going to say this right here is that value. Right there. Okay, now let's use our crossing and touching. Everything crosses. That makes it easy. So we cross the axis here. We got to go down. We got to grab the y-intercept and come back to this x-intercept. It crosses again. We got to go around, come back down to this intercept. It crosses again. All right, so there's our graph. We only have 1, 2 turning points, which is less than 4, so we're okay. And that's what that thing looks like. And we're finished.